The atmosphere inside the Helix Aerosystems presentation hall was thick with tension. Not a word was spoken. Over 200 attendees, engineers, directors, and reporters stared silently as Daniel Kravitz, the CEO, circled around a woman named Amara Lewis with a smirk of condescension. "So, Miss Lewis," he said slowly, drawing out the name like it had a bad taste, "you're seriously telling me that you can do what my elite team from Cambridge and Stanford failed to manage in nearly a month?" Amara stood still, facing the Titan 900 turbine unit, a $15 million prototype that had become Helix's greatest embarrassment in recent months. At 35, she looked nothing like the engineer standing nearby. No branded blazer, no ID badge, no corporate polish. Just a calm black woman who had arrived barely an hour before. Asking to meet Kravitz directly, "I said I can diagnose the issue," she replied with quiet clarity. Around her, faint chuckles rippled through the room. Kravitz grinned. This was unfolding exactly as he wanted. He had arranged this whole setup the moment he heard about a woman claiming she could solve the Titan mess. It was, in his mind, a golden chance for a public lesson. "All right then," he said, dramatically glancing at his watch. 30 minutes. And when this fails, which it will, I want this footage to stand as a warning. No more time wasted. On fantasy, phones lifted into the air instantly. The VP of Technology, Dr. Adrian Mercer, sighed and muttered, "Dan, this is absurd. Why are we even entertaining this?" "Let her proceed." Kravitz snapped back. "This'll be in what separates experience from ... whatever that is." Amara turned her eyes to the turbine, a deep breath. A storm of emotion inside her, fury, memory, purpose, rising with every second. She had spotted the fault the moment she saw the machinery. More than that, she knew exactly who caused it. And why? She leaned forward, brushed her hand lightly over the combustion valve. "Interesting," she whispered. "Unorthodox injector design. Clever ... but flawed." Dr. Mercer narrowed his eyes. That took his team 19 days to identify. How did she notice it in seconds? But Kravitz didn't care. He was too busy savoring what he believed would be a humbling failure. 28 minutes left, he announced mockingly. "Got a backup plan for when this implodes." Amara didn't flinch. She simply shifted. Something in her stance settled. A new certainty replaced the stillness. A switch had flipped. She pulled a phone from her coat pocket, typed a short message. 3 words. "Begin now, Elijah." Have you ever been doubted because of how you look, or where you come from? Drop your story in the comments, and tell us where you're watching from. Your experience might inspire someone else. 500 miles away. Inside a secure operations unit in Atlanta, Georgia, a man in uniform glanced at his screen. Elijah Tran, once Amara's closest collaborator at the U.S. Space Lab, allowed himself a quiet smile. "Finally," he murmured, opening a digital archive marked Top-Level Project Radiant, back inside the Helix Hall. Amara slipped the phone away and turned to Kravitz. "Before we begin, may I ask you one thing?" Her voice was steady. "Where exactly did you get access to the original Titan 900 blueprint files?" That single question struck Kravitz like a live wire. Asterisk for a brief second. Kravitz's confident facade cracked. "How did she even know about the original schematics? That information was restricted. That's not relevant to your demonstration," he stuttered. But Amara had already turned her focus back to the turbine. Now her hands moved with assured precision, as if she had personally assembled the entire machine herself. Because, in truth, she practically had. Dr. Mercer leaned toward his assistant, whispering, "How does she know where to start? This is beyond explanation." What no one in that room realized was that Amara Lewis had been preparing for this exact moment for the last 3 years. The Titan 900 wasn't just a malfunctioning piece of engineering. It was the doorway to the most carefully calculated act of exposure the aerospace world had ever faced, ever had to fight alone, with no one believing in you. Drop a comment if you've ever felt underestimated, and let us know where you're tuning in from. 25 minutes remained on the countdown. Kravitz stepped confidently in front of the press cameras, fixing his tie with theatrical flair. "And gentlemen," he said with a smirk, "I trust you're documenting this enlightening experience. Let this video be shared with every technical school in the country. A reminder of what happens when dreams try to impersonate skill." Meanwhile, Amara kept working, her hands flowing over the internal systems with quiet mastery. Within 10 minutes, she had already pinpointed 3 core design flaws, issues that Kravitz's celebrated team had spent nearly a month trying to locate. Mercer blinked. "How does she know this?" His assistant whispered beside him. "Pure luck," Mercer muttered, but his tone betrayed a deepening doubt. Hundreds of miles away, inside a classified wing of the Defense Department in Atlanta, Elijah Tran was enacting the next phase of their plan. With top-tier clearance, he accessed the confidential archives, tied to Project Radiant, a covert investigation into aerospace intellectual property theft that he and Amara had quietly launched years ago. "Commander, I need an urgent meeting," Elijah told his superior. "I've gathered new proof of unauthorized use of restricted tech by a contractor, currently in partnership with Helix Aerosystems." "Back on stage?" Kravitz's voice grew louder with every mocking word. See those trembling hands? That hesitation? This is why we don't hand complex tools to amateurs. But Amara's hands weren't trembling from fear. They were performing ultra-precise micro-adjustments on the heart of the combustion chamber. Not only had she located the mechanical faults, she had also spotted subtle etchings that confirmed the tech's illegal origin. 3 years earlier, Amara had stumbled across a set of technical drawings while reviewing a helix patent. The specifications looked eerily familiar. They were pieces of her own research from her time at the Lunar Propulsion Lab. A project abruptly shut down after a mysterious data breach. She had spent the following months tracing every lead in silence, building connections across the aerospace field. Elijah, still active within NASA and linked to military circles, became her most trusted ally. Together, they soon uncovered a web of corruption far wider than expected. The entire ecosystem is corrupted, Elijah had warned her during one of their secret briefings. They take stolen defense research, sell it off to hand-picked corporations, and then recycle it into government contracts under a different name. Asterisk, it's the perfect machine of corruption, Amara had once said with a steely smile. Then let's dismantle it. Back in the present, Daniel Kravitz was enjoying himself far too much. His voice rang across the room. Perhaps we should hand her a beginner's guide to thermodynamics, or maybe start with Newton's laws. The crowd chuckled, but among the laughter, a few engineers were watching closely. Too closely. Amara wasn't reading schematics. She wasn't second-guessing anything. She handled the turbine as though she had memorized its every curve, wire, and joint. And for good reason. She had. Dr. Mercer suddenly froze when she removed a specific calibration unit with a movement so exact he had seen it only once before, years ago, at a NASA facility, performed by a woman known then as Dr. Amara Lewis, just weeks before she vanished from the public eye. Can't be, he whispered. Not possible. 20 minutes left. Kravitz's phone buzzed. A notification from a restricted government channel. Mr. Kravitz, this is an official notice. Helix Aerosystems is now under federal investigation for suspected industrial espionage. Agents will arrive on site within 30 minutes. The blood drained from his face. His smug grin vanished. He looked at Amara, who was now standing still, watching him with a cold, polite smile. Something wrong, Mr. Kravitz? She asked softly. You set this up, he choked. This is a trap. Amara turned back to the engine. No, she said without turning. A trap would mean I lied to you. I didn't. I told you I could identify the fault in your turbine. She paused, then slowly looked him in the eye. What I didn't explain was why I can do that. Dr. Mercer stepped forward, his voice almost inaudible. You're Amara Lewis. Dr. Lewis. You disappeared. After the incident with Project Helios, gasps filled the hall. The audience, still recording, now captured a very different kind of moment than what Kravitz had orchestrated. Amara's smile, this time, was real. The first since she entered the room, correct, Dr. Mercer? And this engine, the one none of you can fix. It's based on my classified propulsion model, stolen from Project Helios. Research that was sold behind closed doors after I was forced out of NASA. Kravitz stumbled backward, as if struck in the chest. That's absurd. We acquired the design legally from Polaris Dynamics, who bought it from Arclight Systems, who obtained it through Edward Mercer, your cousin. Amara turned and pointed directly at Dr. Mercer. He looked pale, almost translucent, dirty, hands passing corrupted work through private deals, until it landed right here. Murmurs turned into loud whispers. Shock spread through the crowd like wildfire. Kravitz tried to rally his voice. These are wild claims. You have no solid evidence. Amara stopped. This time she faced the audience fully. Her posture was transformed. Gone was the outsider. Standing before them now was the woman, who had once reshaped the future of propulsion before being erased by the very industry she helped elevate. Mr. Kravitz, Amara said calmly, not even looking up from her work. These past 30 minutes, I haven't just repaired your turbine. I've documented every illegal part, every unauthorized adjustment, every engraving that traces this. A system back to stolen government technology. She raised her smartphone, and all of it has been live-streamed directly to the FBI. The room fell into a stunned silence. Just half an hour ago, they had chuckled at her plain appearance, dismissed her as just another woman stepping out of place. But those who were really paying attention had seen something else. Those weren't trembling hands. They were the steady movements of a mind sharpened by 3 years of silent rage, betrayal, and relentless planning. 15 minutes left. Kravitz, now pale, tried to speak, but his words came out fractured and breathless. These are just accusations. You can't trust her without actual proof. Amara didn't flinch. She looked him straight in the eyes. Proof. She tapped her phone again. Elijah, begin the feed. Suddenly, the auditorium's main screens flickered to life. Classified files, encrypted emails, wire transfers, signed contracts. A 3-year archive of corruption began to spill across the displays in full view. A $50 million transaction from Polaris Dynamics to Edward Mercer, Dr. Adrian Mercer's cousin. Elijah's voice echoed through the speaker. System date, March 15, 2020. 3 days after Dr. Amara Lewis was forcibly dismissed from the Lunar Propulsion Division. Dr. Mercer gasped, his knees almost giving out. No, Edward wouldn't. I didn't know anything about this. Amara turned her gaze toward him, her tone laced with icy precision. Oh, of course not. Just a coincidence, right? That you just happened to be on the very team that repurposed my propulsion model here at Helix. The screen changed again. WhatsApp conversations, audio recordings, offshore transactions, a spiderweb of fraud, all built on the theft of one woman's genius. Kravitz was sweating through his collar. His voice cracked. Double quotes. This, this is a violation. You can't legally show. Actually, Amara interrupted, her voice smooth as ice. We can. She held up her phone once more. Federal warrant. Issued 2 hours ago. As we speak, FBI agents are securing every database inside your headquarters. As if on cue, the side doors opened. Men in dark suits, with stern faces and federal badges, entered the hall in silence. The crowd instinctively parted. The lead agent stepped forward. Daniel Kravitz, he declared, you are under arrest for industrial espionage, money laundering, and conspiracy to defraud the United States government. Kravitz staggered backward until he hit the wall. I'm the CEO of Helix Aerosystems. You can't just. We can, and we are, the agent replied, producing a pair of handcuffs. Your accounts have been frozen. Your properties seized. Your company is now under federal control. Dr. Mercer tried to slip quietly toward a side exit, but another agent blocked his path. Dr. Adrian Mercer, he said firmly, we'll need a word with you too. Asterisk, I didn't know, Dr. Mercer shouted, his usual composure shattered. My cousin never told me where the tech came from, I swear. Amara stepped forward slowly, her voice low, precise, cutting like a scalpel. Adrian, you were present at 14 internal meetings in the last 2 years where the sole topic was how to reverse engineer the Helios design. She paused. I have recordings of every single one. Mercer's face drained of color. His mouth opened, but no sound came. You couldn't have accessed my lab, my systems. I didn't need to. Amara replied coolly. My original research included hidden transponders embedded in the core logic. Every time one of my designs was altered, tested, or even discussed near the system, those interactions were uploaded to a secure server. Kravitz, still in cuffs, looked at her with hatred and helplessness. You orchestrated this. This was all a trap. Amara didn't look at him. She simply replied, no, Daniel, the trap was your ego. You set this in motion the day you tried to humiliate me for sport. She gestured toward the audience. The phone's still recording. The screen's still broadcasting. I came here to quietly recover what was stolen from me. But you gave me something better. A stage large enough for the entire world to see. What kind of leader you truly are. The main screen changed again, a montage of footage. Kravitz laughing during interviews, mocking female applicants. Jokes about race at board meetings, termination letters issued to high-performing black staff, 3 years of unethical behavior, publicly exposed in less than 3 minutes. This stream, Elijah's voice echoed overhead, is now live on all major networks. CNN, BBC, Global One, and the hashtag Helix scandal is trending worldwide. Kravitz made one final, pathetic attempt. Amara, wait. We can fix this. A promotion, equity, any amount of money, just name it. She didn't even look at him. She finished her final adjustment on the Titan 900. The engine roared to life. The flawless hum of restored power filled the auditorium, a sound she hadn't heard in 3 long years. Her work was complete, but her closing words hit harder than any exposure ever could. 3 years ago, she began, you and men like you told me I was nothing, that my research had no worth, that I should quietly disappear. She let the silence carry her words. Today, with the world watching, you've lost more than your position, your money, or even your freedom. You've lost the only thing you ever truly cared about, the respect of the very industry you thought you owned. As Kravitz and Mercer were escorted out, their legacies obliterated, reporters rushed Amara, firing questions, flashing lights. She simply wiped oil from her fingers, adjusted the tool in her hand, and walked quietly toward the exit. From the crowd, Dr. Elena Ramirez, the only Latina executive at Helix, stepped forward, eyes filled with tears. Dr. Lewis, thank you for proving we weren't imagining it, that we weren't overreacting. Amara paused, nodded gently. Elena, you were never alone. She looked once more at the chaos left behind, and with quiet certainty, she added, now that he's gone, maybe this company can finally become what it should have been all along. As the auditorium doors closed behind her, a single question lingered in the air. Could 3 years of silent preparation not only take down the corrupt, but finally change an entire industry that had silenced women like her for decades? Asterisk 6. Months later, the front page of the Financial Herald carried a headline no one in the industry could ignore. Helix Aerosystems, under new leadership, sets historic benchmarks in innovation and equity. The featured photos show Dr. Amara Lewis, now Chief Scientific Officer, standing beside Dr. Elena Ramirez, the new CEO, cutting the ribbon at the launch of the nation's most advanced aerospace R&D center. Meanwhile, Daniel Kravitz was beginning an 8-year sentence in a federal facility for industrial espionage. His accounts remained frozen, his estates liquidated to pay court-awarded reparations. Once the head of a tech empire, he now shared space with other white-collar criminals, his arrogance replaced by the silence of concrete walls. Dr. Adrian Mercer had not only lost his job but also his engineering credentials. After the scandal, no aerospace company in the country would touch his name. He now sold home insurance in a quiet rural town, his decorated academic past erased by the weight of complicity. The irony, Elijah Tran said in a televised interview with CNN, is that they tried to erase the most brilliant woman in aerospace science and ended up handing her control of the very system they used to keep her out. At Helix, the transformation was visible everywhere. The company that once employed less than 10% people of color now proudly reported over 40%. Half of all leadership positions were held by women. The scholarship fund for students from underrepresented communities founded by Amara had already supported more than 200 aspiring engineers. She didn't just save our company, Alina said during a quarterly press briefing. She redefined what excellence looks like. Our designs are now 60% more efficient, our operating costs down by 40%, and our reputation has been completely rebuilt. The once troubled Titan 900 engine had been renamed the Phoenix series, symbolizing the company's rebirth. It had become the new standard across the global market, with orders pouring in from across continents. Helix Aerosystems was now the fastest aerospace company in North America. Amara, however, kept her routine simple. She arrived early, worked shoulder to shoulder with her multicultural team, set aside time daily to mentor young talent, especially women and students of color. Her office was modest. No framed degrees on the walls, no trophies. She believed results spoke louder than credentials. During a keynote lecture at MIT, she addressed a crowd of future engineers. The best form of revenge isn't to destroy those who tried to break you. It's to create something so extraordinary that they're forced to spend the rest of their lives knowing they couldn't stop true greatness. The auditorium, filled with women, immigrants, and first-gen students, rose in applause. Some had tears in their eyes. They saw someone who had lived their experience and overcome it. That same week, Amara's former fiancé, Edward Mercer, the man who first betrayed her research, attempted to contact her through attorneys and intermediaries, now facing multiple fraud lawsuits in 3 states. He wanted to talk about the past. Amara's legal team responded with one line: "The past is done. Focus on what's ahead." Dr. Elena Ramirez often paused to observe Amara in the lab, focused, steady.com. And each time, she was reminded of a single truth: the attempt to belittle a woman had ended up saving an entire company. "I guess some predators," she once said to Elijah with a half-smile, "just choose the wrong prey. And when they do, the hunter becomes the hunted." Amara's journey ignited a movement. Her story inspired thousands across the world of science and engineering, especially women and marginalized voices. Documentaries were released. Biographies hit bestseller lists. Scholarships in her name were created in universities from coast to coast. But for Amara, the real victory was far simpler: to work in peace, in a space built on merit, surrounded by minds that valued brilliance over background, far from the headlines. In a federal prison cell, Daniel Kravitz lived a different reality. He didn't have access to much, just fragments of news, occasional whispers about Helix's meteoric rise. And each success was like salt in an open wound. The woman he had mocked, dismissed, humiliated, now ran the empire he once called his own. Every glowing article, every televised success, was a reminder that it hadn't just been his job he'd lost, but his legacy, his identity, dignity. Amara had said in her last national interview, "Isn't something they can take from you. They can steal your work. They can question your worth. They can try to erase your voice. But when you know who you are, when you never stop believing, the truth eventually rises, and it speaks louder than anything else." 3 years of isolation, of silent endurance, had blossomed into decades of recognition. The girl who once dreamed of flying among the stars had found something far greater: the chance to help others reach for the stars themselves. If this story moved you, if you believe in resilience, justice, and the power of truth, subscribe to the channel, because talent never stays hidden forever. It shines, even when the world tries to bury it.